read this heavy, so I'll try not to.
Camera rolling? Tim and Jeremy, you guys did a motion picture. Tell us, what's the title of the film?
The film's called Dive.
Dive?
It's about living off America's waste.
Okay, and what was the inspiration for this? Where did you get the idea?
I started dumpster diving about 3 or 4 years ago, getting food out of dumpsters, primarily grocery stores, Trader Joe's. And after a couple years of doing it and just being excited about all the amazing free food I was gathering from my family and friends, I decided to start filming it and documenting it. And originally it was supposed to be a 10-minute short film for a class I was taking in Pasadena, and then it grew into a 45-minute film.
So it's kind of an incredible testament to America's waste, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's full. On any given night, you can go into a dumpster and find not just a meal, but you could find a meal for all the friends that you have in your life. I mean, it's just full of good edible food.
That's amazing. Not to mention the containers that the food is in, which are usually not biodegradable.
True. Yeah, and that's the crazy part about it is that, you know, in the midst of all this waste, you have, say, the California Grocers Association or some of the grocery stores themselves claiming that, you know, they give the food away if it's edible, or if it's not, they compost it. And yet a lot of the food's being thrown away inside the packaging, the plastic packaging, and going to the landfill, which in the landfill it produces harmful methane gas. And I mean, it's really, of course our society, because of our excess, we waste a lot on every level: water, food, clothing, fuel. I mean, we waste because of our wealth and our excess. But food in particular is something that includes waste on every level, because if we throw away 96 billion pounds of food in this country every year, all that it takes to create that food, I mean, the amount of water that you use to grow the crops, and the pesticides, and of course the pesticides aren't good to begin with, and then the fuel that it takes to transport that food all over the country, and then if that ends up in the dumpster and then creates harmful gases, I mean, so the impact on the environment is
pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
It's enormous. And I mean, if you think about the impact of the amount of meat that we eat in this country and how much it costs to make a pound of meat, 7 pounds of grain, 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of meat, and if that meat ends up in the dumpster, and we're not even mentioning, you know, the deforestation happening in the Amazon, Central South America, to grow the soy and crops to feed all of, you know, these animals, because most of livestock now is fed on grains, which should be going to people instead.
Wow. Now the film is this something that's going to make people laugh and shock them? And I know it sounds shocking to me, but are there humorous parts of the film that people are going to kind of, in the midst of being really slapped in the face with this information, are they going to be entertained as well?
It's a heavy subject, but taken in a light way.
And you, as a composer of the film, did you try and, what was your challenge in?
Well, there's that idea of kind of light and heavy. I mean, the film is really following Jeremy and Jeremy's family. You get to see really what his life is like and what his community is like. So, as a composer, I got a rough cut of the film and saw, this is before I had met his family, and I saw his kids. He has, you know, beautiful family, 2 boys and a wife.
Where do you live, Jeremy?
Pasadena.
Pasadena? California, okay.
Yeah, in California. So most of the film was filmed in Pasadena. But just this element of kind of light and dark, I mean, there's a message to the film. There's serious things that are happening that we can change. That's within our power to change. Ultimately, is to awaken this sense of awe and wonder, like a child. I mean, like to look at something as really beautiful, and to really kind of value and honor that. Ultimately, the film makes you come out with like with that sense. I mean, you feel like you're watching this man's life and his friends, and kind of go through this process of coming to grips with what's going on, what he can do, and you kind of ride along with him and think, well, I can do something. I mean, after it screens, people are like, what can we do? You know, we want to do something. I want to go dumpster diving. Most people, when they see it, they go dumpster diving. That's the first thing they want to do. They want to jump in a dumpster. And we get emails all the time. People are like, send us photos of, like, you know, all the food they got. You know, it's like treasure hunting. You know, at first it's kind of, it can be thrilling.
Now, how long, I know people will find this out when they watch the movie, but how long and how many people did you feed just dumpster diving? How long did you go without buying groceries?
I actually used it more as a supplemental because you never know exactly what you're going to get.
Right.
There's a scene in the film where I went to buy a freezer to put in my garage, like one of those big chest freezers, and this woman ends up giving it to me, and I filled that entire freezer with meat in a week.
In 7 days of dumpster diving, you filled a refrigerator-sized freezer
full of meat, which is, you know, more than a year's supply of meat for my family easily. That was kind of casually dumpster diving. I'm working full time, I have a family, I was working on the film. If I really wanted to go out to more stores, I could probably in one night easily fill that freezer with meat. So, but when I was making the film, I was dumpster diving more than usual. It wasn't just casual because I was documenting it. So, I mean, and my wife at the time was pregnant with our second son, Scout. So my son, Scout, is in a strange way, a dumpster baby, I guess. I mean, he was all of his nutrition. He wasn't conceived inside the dumps. Or it's possible.
That one time.
Yeah. No.
It only takes one time.
But that little boy, Scout, you know, his whole life inside the womb was, you know, nourished by
fed.
Yeah,
he's pretty wild.
Food from the dumpster.
He's like sweet and wild.
He is a little crazy. I don't know if that has anything to do with the food. Or...
Very sweet though.
But you asked me partly about the inspiration for the film, and I mean, one of it was just the, you know, being incensed and angered by the fact that why is this food being thrown away and not given to people who need it? And at the same time, I was an assistant on a documentary and had to go to Uganda a few times, and I spent time in the internally displaced persons camps in the north and the slums in Kampala, and I encountered small children who were severely malnourished, living off one meal a day
with no dumpsters to dive,
with no food to be had. The World Food Program's giving them a sack full of food that's supposed to last a week for a family. And then I came back to the States and drove down the road a mile and pulled $400 worth of food out of a trash can. So that really pissed me off and outraged me, and so the film works on that level too. It's fun. I mean, I have a sense of humor and I like to use that, and I think that's important. So it looks at dumpster diving, food waste, but then it looks at the issue of hunger. Locally in our own city, Los Angeles, close to 1 million people who are food insecure.
And Pasadena is a fairly affluent area, very affluent in spots.
It is. And then it looks at, you know, the fact that globally hunger is a huge issue, and we have to connect our food waste with hunger in the world. Not just like clearing your plate, but the fact that we throw away almost half of our food in this country directly impacts people in developing nations, the cost of their foods and grains and the availability of that food. So we have to make that connection.
That is really food for thought.
Well said.
Hey, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you for making the time to sit down and talk with us.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
Wish you the best of luck with the film.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah, it's been doing pretty well. It's won 11 out of 14 festivals it's been.
That's great.
And no cut.